Hello, everybody. Jimmy Smith here. Welcome to the Wine with Jimmy channel. Delighted to have you on board, of course. So, welcome to my channel, which is all about things vinous. So, this is wine education for everybody. If you are enthused, you're an enthusiastic amateur, you'll find these videos useful. But if you are studying the world of wine, of course, these videos are very much designed around key syllabus and key wine text. So you'll find certainly the information learnt in these videos useful for your studies. If you have a question or a comment, I would love to hear from you. Please do get in touch via the comment section below. And please make sure you click like and subscribe. So here we are looking at the diploma certificate for the WSET. This is on Australia. And we're going to go into Mornington Crescent. Oh, I'm sorry, I haven't got a clue. Mornington Peninsula. Brits will understand that. So, Series 3 Victoria, Part 2 Mornington Peninsula. Let's rock and roll looking at this. Now, this part, along with the part previously and the part after, that's 1 through to 3, is available as free content, but parts 4 through to 8 are available only to those of you who subscribe to my e-learning platform. Let's rock and roll, talking a little bit about Victoria to begin with. So, to the east of South Australia, which is just to the left of your map there, the state of Victoria has been split into 6 smaller zones. Remember, Australia is in states, then it's into zones, and then we go into the regions and sub-regions. So therefore, we have a wide range of conditions in play because it's such a large area. It's the Port Phillip zone along the southern coast around the capital, the state capital of Melbourne, which we are focusing on there, in dark green, of course. And we're going to be looking at the most southerly part of the Port Phillip zone, which is Mornington Peninsula. So here is the Port Phillip zone, as we mentioned, just highlighting that in green again by taking away the colour from the rest of the map. So this is around the coast of Port Phillip Bay, which is that large water expanse sitting between Mornington Peninsula and so on. And the proximity to the sea here moderates the climate and cools the growing season. In certain areas as well, there is a bit of altitude, like the Upper Yarra and a little bit like Red Hill of Mornington Peninsula, where you have a bit of a cooling effect from that altitude. So let's take a look at Mornington Peninsula. Of course, it is described as a peninsula, so it is surrounded by water on 3 sides. This is to the south and southeast of Melbourne. And it's a narrow peninsula with Port Phillip Bay on one side, and you'll see that towards the north, and then on the other, the Bass Strait, which separates mainland Australia from Tasmania. You'll see that Geelong is across the Port Phillip Bay, and then Gippsland is across the Bass Strait on the other side, which of course then follows a lot of the south coast of Victoria. It's not a large area, so you'll see quite scattered vineyards, really sort of stretching from St Andrews Beach up through the Red Hill spine, and then heading towards Somerville in the northern section. Just under 1,000 hectares in play for Mornington Peninsula. Let's go into its climate. So the region has a cool to moderate climate. The annual rainfall level are lower than the Yarra Valley. So remember, the Yarra Valley was in excess of 1,000 millimetres per year. Here, the average has dropped by about 40 millimetres with the later timing of the last 30 years in comparison to the previous 30 years. So that's a decrease of around 5%. The growing season rainfall is about 380 millimetres of rain per year. So that tells you that out of 380 out of sort of 750, so we are looking at about half of the rainfall falling in winter and half in the growing season. So rain can be a threat at flowering. It can cause disruption with fruit set, and then also at harvest time as well. Growing degree days are on the lower side, about sort of 1400 to 1500, and the temperatures have risen by zero point 0.8 degrees C from the 1960 to 1990 average compared to the early 1990s to today. So there's a smaller increase than other areas in this zone. That's the Dramana state you'll see in that picture, giving you an idea of the cooler conditions in play. Now, it is an often windy area to the fact that it is a peninsula. Sunshine hours can be high, but the cooling effect of the wind means that summer afternoon temperatures remain relatively low. The wind means that frost is not too common, despite the fact that you do have fairly cool springtime temperatures. It also, with this airflow, reduces the threat of disease, fungal disease pressure, and that's despite the high humidity and the proximity to water. But we know that rainfall can be a problem with flowering, so can the wind, because it can cause coulure, which is shedding of the blossom. Now, the moderating effect of the water gives mild autumn conditions, and that's what extends nicely the growing season. The picture shows you a windmill in the 10 Minutes by Tractor vineyards, a great producer, of course, that you may know. The region is relatively flat, being a peninsula, but we do have Red Hill. On the right-hand side, you'll see a topographical map that I have shown, with Red Hill being clearly identified in that central spine. Think of it a little bit like the boot and spine of Italy, just less dramatic. So this is a ridge running along the centre of the peninsula, providing a variety of microclimates with altitudes going up to around 250 metres. Now, the etymology of Red Hill is because of the red basalt soils which retain the winter rainwater throughout the growing season. So there's no need to irrigate in this specific area. But in these fertile soils, vigour can be a problem, so careful vineyard management is required. Some producers use the lyre system instead of vertical shoot positioning to manage vigour. You'll actually see in Paringa Estate, which is found in Red Hill, you'll see the lyre system training here in this picture. Lovely picture. Away from the ridge, the soils are predominantly free draining clay and sand, and in those, irrigation is needed. So if you are actually traversing Mornington Peninsula looking for irrigation signs, when you see them, you will be off the red basalts. If you don't see it, then you will be within Red Hill area. So what are we finding here in Mornington Peninsula? So Pinot Noir made over half of the region's tonnage in 2023. The style of Pinot Noir in Mornington Peninsula comes in a range, from the light-bodied styles with perfumed red fruits with fairly high acidity, particularly those from the higher altitude red basalt soils of Red Hill, to those at the lower altitudes on the clays where you get more ripeness and higher tannins. In terms of winemaking practices, cold soaking is very much used for extra colour from the skins, and depending on the desired style, whole bunch fermentation or stem inclusion may be used to add complexity and tannins. Many wines are aged in French oak, and small proportions of those tend to be in new. The wines tend to be good to outstanding in quality. They're usually towards premium priced. Often, this area is considered the Pinot Noir hotspot for quality in Australia mainland. There's also some good Shiraz to be found. You'll see 4% there, similar in a style to those that are found in the Yarra Valley. Paringa Estate Pinot Noir there, very much an important production. Chardonnay is also an important grape variety, obviously. Wherever you find Pinot Noir, you find Chardonnay. And it makes up about 1/5 of the harvested fruit weight in 2023. It tends to be medium bodied with high acidity, medium alcohol, and you get citric, peachy melon characteristics. You will find lees aging, you will find oak, although lower proportions of new, and some will use malolactic conversion, certainly to add more texture into the wine. The wines are usually good to outstanding and often towards premium priced again. You'll see the label there is the Wallace Chardonnay from 10 Minutes by Tractor. There's also some fairly decent Pinot Grigio, actually accounting for 16% in 2023. A variety of styles here, lending more towards sort of more fuller and Alsatian expressions, but always with a vibrant acidity behind them. Okay, well, that brings me to a conclusion for Mornington Peninsula Part 2. Please do join me for Part 3, where we look at Geelong, which is over the Port Phillip Bay. Not as a larger section, and certainly the video won't be as long as the last two. This will be available as free content, will be the final one of the free content for Victoria. If you do have any comments or questions, please do get in touch. It would be great to hear from you. Have you had experience with Mornington Peninsula wines? Do you prefer the higher altitude red basalt soil Pinot Noirs, or do you prefer the lower altitude styles? Who is your favourite producer? Do you have any recommends, restaurant tips? Please do get in touch. It will be great to hear from you. If you do find yourself in the UK, come and say hello for a glass, or bottle. I've been Jimmy Smith. Ciao for now. Goodbye.